Welcome to Simchas Beis HaSheva, Ushpizin de Moshe, Ushpizin Eloi, Moshe Rabbeinu, Ushpizin is tonight. No, he's Pashtushay de Moshe, is B'chol Dar V'Dar. Moshe is Befrat, he's in the Sham of Klal Yisrael. He's Kol Al Nishmas Yisrael. And anyone that learns Torah is Davik and Moshe Rabbeinu. And so tonight's Torah should be Bez Hashem Hafsiyat Ishmaya of Moshe Rabbeinu's Ushpizin, and I hope this Torah was already learned by Moshe Rabbeinu. State Moshe Rabbeinu, he saw all Komash Talmud Vasik Asid L'Chadesh, anything that even a very basic Talmud and Klal Yisrael's Mechadesh and Torah Moshe Rabbeinu saw. So my hope is that this is just Chazar from Moshe Rabbeinu. Tonight's at the Yartzeit of Nachman Breslov. So I've just opened up the kutim around that I got as a present from someone who gave it to me again. Oh, it's Ari, right? Oh, and I opened up to Torah Kuf Ayin Hey 175, and he's talking about crying. Crying is a good thing. People are supposed to cry. We know the Shari Timois Leina Shlavis, right? When a person cries, Hashem answers. So the Mishnah Berurah says the person can cry on Shabbos and Yontif if you cry right, and once you know the crying of the Rav Nachman, you will cry freely on Shabbos and Yontif also. The Mishnah Berurah says you could cry when people that they from intense kavanah they cry. He says that's okay on Shabbos and Yontif. It's not a crying of sadness. It's just his iris from intense concentration. The Rav Nachman says, Iker Malas Habachia, the Maila, the advantage of crying that it is piled so many good things, is Kishim Machma Simcha V'Chedva. When a person cries out of joy and celebration. And he says, even if a person is crying from charata, let's say a person feels very bad that he did something that he feels was destructive, so he has a lot of regrets, he's crying from regret. So even when a person cries from regret, it's taiv ma'oy shetia machmas simcha. How do you connect simcha to your regret? He says, because a person is so overjoyed that he has a connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And now that he realized that he was destructive and he regrets that he destroyed this relationship, so that's sharing his joy with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So what's driving him in being in the regret is he's miskagei ma'od, right? He feels he wants to reclaim that joy that he knows is that is only found in this world with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? The only real joy in this world is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is dveikus HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like we said many times on the Sil Sharm in Chassidus. Kol Masha Nichlas Adam Yoiser B'Avodasi Yisbarach. The deeper person gets into his connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and his avodas Hashem, Kain, right, Nisrabe Simchasai, right? Simcha is directly correlated. True Simcha is directly correlated to connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Zakt Rav Nachman, when a person has charata that he destroyed that connection, and what's motivating is because he recognizes that he shared his simcha, right? So Mela, what's motivating the charata and the regret is the simcha is motivating it. So he says this is the ikar miles of Bechia. This is how Bechia has its true power. A person he's emotional about the joy that he has in his connection to Kadosh Baruch Hu. We know that people cry out of simcha all the time. You go to a wedding, people are crying. Well, why are they crying? Whenever a person has a huge movement of emotion, so tears come to his eyes. And when that movement is an appreciation of connection to Kadosh Baruch Hu, that is the greatest simcha. And personally, just from my own personal experience, I find that in Shemon Esrei, when you say the word Goyim Chasadim Tovim, that's a time that you feel tremendous amount of emotion, right? It's emotion of unbelievable simcha, right? And at that point, and by Moedim also, when you feel intense amount of appreciation, that's when I find when by me, naturally, that's when I get most emotional. It's not crying from sadness, it's not even crying from regret. It's crying just from the fact of just recognizing, and I guess maybe like a sense of longing, a sense of appreciation, like when you have a totally new understanding of a connection, right? So then that's Ma'ira tears.
You really cry? You cry at those times?
I wouldn't say that it's I wouldn't say per se it's crying. It's just like tears start pouring out of my eyes. Yeah. What? Huh? Right. It's not so much like wah wah. It's not the yalala. It's not the yalala of Tkiyah Shofar. But it's mamish what he describes. I'll tell you what he describes. He describes it as he says Bechia is, first of all, he says an interesting Rashi Tevis. Bechia is Rashi Tevis b'shimcha yigilun kol hayom, right? That we celebrate our connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What's b'shimcha? What's Hashem's name? Hashem's names means our most basic connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Olam Hazeh. Appreciating that we have Hashem with us in Olam Hazeh. This is a celebration kol hayom, and that's what Bechia is.
Otherwise, he wouldn't cry. He didn't have a connection. What are you crying about?
Right. So he says also like this, that Bechia is nisar from the lave. He says, what is lave? Lave is bina, right? A lave maven, the Gemara Bracha says. Your lave understands. When you understand something, right, you hear a piece of information, a piece of chachma, and when you think it over, and all of a sudden you say, okay, I got it, you feel it's misiyashevas al lave, it settles on your heart. So he says, Bechia comes from bina, because he says bina, the shem of bina, right, is Yud K Vav K B'Gematria B'Miluya B'Gematria Samach Gimel, right? Yud Vav and Dalet, K Yud, Vav Aleph and Vav, and K Yud, and that's B'Gematria Samach Gimel. He says Yud K Vav K is 26. The Miluy, to get 26 Havaya, the Kipshutai to the Miluy of Samach Gimel is 37. Right, 37, 26 gets to 63. What is Bechia B'Gematria? It's B'Gematria 37 because it's the Milui of the Shem of Bina, meaning Bechia has to do with the Midah of Bina, which has to do with the Lave, which has to do with her, like we said, Halev Maven. So he says, Ikra Simcha, where's your Simcha? Belev, right? So Mela Nasata Simcha Belibi, he brings from David HaMelech. So Simcha is Belev and Bechia is Belev. So you see that they overlap, that a person can really cry tears of joy, and this is the ultimate Hisiris of Bechia. Misham from the Lev is Misham Tzarach Shatia Hisiris Bechia. That's the way actually I've described it before. In the past to people, maybe I mentioned this year. Like when you feel this iris, you feel like your heart's being given a pump, and all of a sudden you feel like there's like a connection of tear ducts from your heart to your eyes, and also it's like a squirt out. It's like squeezing a water gun. That's just whatever. Maybe I don't know if anyone is wired like me, but that's in my wiring. That's the way I find it. It's like when you all of a sudden it's a new hakar and you understand something. Wow. I'm connected to Kadosh Baruch Hu. I feel so much gratitude for that, and all of a sudden it's like a hug in the heart. It's gratitude, just like you feel, and all of a sudden tears start pouring. So that is the Iker Hisiris of Iker Milas Abachia, according to Rabbeinu Nachman, Rabbeinu Nachman, Rabbeinu Simcha, Zchusti Yokan Leinu, Kol Yisrael Shtak B'Zoichet, that we should have a tremendous sense of connection to Rabbeinu Shalom. And have all the kishari demois leinish lavais shari dima in the null, and we should always have the ability to really to connect the Kadosh Baruch and bring down Rav Bracha to ourselves and God's Klal Yisrael.